Welcome to another episode of our Parker Points. It's going to be the second part of our Getting a Head Coaching Job series. We're going to talk in this episode about resumes and references and interviewing. Last time was all about the things before you even apply for the job, and this time it's going to be everything after you apply for a job. So to sum up where we were last time, if you didn't get a chance to watch the last episode, please do. If this topic's interesting to you, probably want to watch that one as well. But to sum up, we said there were five steps to getting a coaching job. And the first step was being self-aware. And we kind of talked for several minutes about ways you can be self-aware and recognize it if it's a job you want or you need or deserve or whatever. And I think one of the first things you realize is how hard it is to get a job, and have guys message me all the time what they can do or they didn't get something or whatever. You got to keep in mind that it's really hard to get a job. Know when you should apply, know what your advantages and disadvantages are, and know what you can control. And watching things like this and educating yourself on what you can do is really sometimes what you can do that you control right now. You don't control if you get the job or not. That's what I think makes it really a fascinating topic, but also kind of frustrating for a lot of people. So, but are you doing everything you can control? So, you ask yourself, we kind of left it here last time. You ask yourself, do I fit this job? Do I know somebody at this job? And would I accept a job? And if the answers to all those is yes, or even if you don't know anybody at the school, but you think you got a good chance, then you move on to step two. So, after all this time, we're going to go to step two. Step two in getting a head coaching job is you got to introduce yourself properly, and you got to send out the right resume and references and all that, and get hit up with this all the time. What should I do? Whatever. The goal in this step. So you got to think, I think it's always important to begin with the end in mind. You got to know, what are we trying to accomplish? Where are we trying to go? And how are we going to get there? And so right now, where you are in the process, so put your head around, you want a job, you decided you qualify, you should apply, you applied. Now your only goal is to get an interview. Don't start buying a house. Don't get your wife looking through real estate. Don't figure all that out. What you're going to do with the kids, how you're going to tell your current team. Forget all that. You got one goal right now, one goal. The goal is, am I going to get an interview? Yes or no? I can only speak for Georgia. It's where I am, but I do think this is true across the country. We go on average probably around 100 guys per job apply. Most places interview between 5 and 10, which means you have to be in the top 5 to 10% to even get an interview. So most people stall out on this step. Most people do step one, they do step two, then they're done and they have to go back and do step one again, and then step two, and this until you get an interview. This is where you are. But here's why I'm telling you all this before we even get into what is step two and how do you do resume and references and introduce yourself properly. If you get stalled out here, which, like I said, 90-something% of the people do, make sure that you get stalled out here doing what you can control. Have you done everything you can do? Don't come complaining because they didn't hire you, because you didn't know the right people, or whatever excuse you have. If you did a sorry ass resume or reference or just something pathetic, make sure you're doing everything you can do. If you're doing everything you can do, then that's all you can do. Go back to step one on the next job and eventually prove them wrong for not hiring you. But you got to make sure that you start doing this stuff right, to make sure you can look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I ended up stalling out on that step two. I didn't get an interview, but I did everything I could do. Your resume. People ask me sometimes, what should I put on a resume? Well, there's not a right answer on this, but I'm gonna give you some things, okay? And for people to not know me or listen to this, maybe don't understand my frame of reference here. I've been the head football coach. I've been the athletic director. I've been the district athletic director. And I've been now I'm currently the human resources director for our district. So I got a lot of experience in hiring folks, a lot of experience in resumes and references and all that. So what I'm telling you is just what I've experienced in my career. Your resume should be concise in the email and cover letter, meaning don't send somebody a damn epistle of 3 and 4 pages that you wrote in a cover letter or some email. They're not going to read that junk. They're more likely to click on the attachments. So write a couple of paragraphs, maybe introducing yourself, Mr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so. I'm interested in your head football job or whatever it is. And, summarize your career a little bit. And then, please let me know if there's anything that I can do to help or any questions or something to that effect, and attach a great resume. What does your resume need to have on it? My advice, 2021, pics, logos, etc. Make it interactive, make it look sharp, show you care. If you're not good at that stuff, find somebody who is. It's really not that hard now to make your resume look pretty good. Uh, I now like for people to put links of things if applicable, meaning if your team did some good things on the field or even off the field, and there's links to different internet articles about it, put the link in the resume. People, nobody is printing off your resume with a stack and scanning through them like the old days. They're looking at your resume on the computer. It's okay if it has hyperlinks in it and things like that. Probably one of the biggest things that we deal with in terms of advice to people, long is not better. Like just putting more, I mean, listing every single thing you can think about your old school is not necessarily better. You want to keep that thing to maybe 2 total pages if at all possible. And if it can be 1 page and get stuff in, I guess that's better if it grabs your attention. But I don't know if I'd have long resumes. I mean, people just quit reading it. It doesn't grab their attention. It's well intended, but it doesn't grab their attention. So try to keep it to 1 to 2 pages. I brought this up because this is the resume I had used for the Parker resource to kind of show people if I was applying for a job, this is the type of thing I would do. I've got over here what I've been. I put logos up here. I've got a picture. I mean, you put a picture of your family on there. I've done that too. I just didn't do that one for this. But you might want to put a picture there of your family. Look at logos of the schools, kind of a summary. I don't think you should get into more detail than that. Maybe that's even too much. Some credentials, some awards, education, whatever. And then these are links that if this was a document that I sent to you, then you could click on them and see articles about our teams or things I'd written or whatever. Even though I think that resume looks pretty good. I mean, it's mine, so I guess I'm biased, but that's not that difficult to do. You can make yourself something like that. References. To me, as an HR director, as an athletic director, I wanted to hire coaches basically, and now I know we're talking about coaches, but even if it was teachers or principals or whatever, I want to hire people off of their references. I want to interview them. We want to hear about their references. I want to know what accomplishments they had, but you got to think of that thing as a big pie. Think of resume, references, and interview as a big pie. The interview is not the only thing that matters. It's not getting an interview and then you kill it in the interview, you get the job. It's not that simple. You need a resume. You need some accomplishments. You need some people to vouch for you, and you need to interview well. You really need to do all 3 of them. So who's vouching for you? Well, let me give you a little tip. This is not just true for coaching jobs, but we're talking about coaching. So keep it in that context. If you don't put your direct supervisors, especially your current direct supervisor, it is usually a red flag. I realize there's certain scenarios we don't want that person knowing, or maybe you feel like you've been mistreated, or I'm not saying there's not exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, you need to put the people who supervise you. Let me tell you why you need to put them. We're going to call them anyway. So the next thing I says, who's not on that list? I'm telling you guys, if we're hiring you for a high profile job, head football coach is about as high profile as you're going to get. If you had basketball coach, there's more important jobs in the school. There may not be more higher profile jobs than some of those head coach jobs in the school. So if we're hiring a job like that, I want to know everything about you. So we're going to call who's not on your list. If you were at 3 schools previously, we're going to call all 3, figure out who the principal was in 3 schools, we're going to call them. So you might as well put them on the list because we're going to call them anyway. That would be how I would think. Now, does that mean every single person calls them? No, they probably don't. But I would go into it with the mentality of, you putting Kirby Smart, Mark Richt, and Nick Saban and everybody else on your list because you may have stumbled upon their phone number is really not near as important as your direct supervisor. I mean, if you got some big name people you want to put on there, that's great, but it doesn't hurt, I don't guess, but I don't think it helps as much as people think. I would think connected over famous, meaning if you had somebody that worked with me and I really, really respected them, and now they work somewhere else and they're a superintendent, they're a principal, and they call and say, Coach Parker, you really need to look at this guy. He works in my district. He is phenomenal. He wants to move there. To me, that would actually sound better than Bill Belichick calling on your behalf. I mean, Bill Belichick doesn't know our school. That's really cool. It'd be awesome if anybody wants to get him to call me. I'm available. but I don't know that it's going to help you get the job. So think about connecting people. Think about who do you know that may know somebody over there. And then keep this in mind, because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I get a ton of people that want me to call on their behalf for something. Make sure you've worked your butt off for those people. Make sure that you have been such a great worker that people want to call on your behalf, because just constantly asking for the favor for somebody to call and you didn't necessarily work is not great either. So if it goes back to what we talked about in the last episode, but you got to do everything you can do to work your butt off now. So when you need these references, they're glad to help. They're glad to help. So put in the work now to do that. Put your direct supervisors on there. Think about who's not on the list that they're probably going to call anyway, just so you kind of are aware of that. And then think about who's connected over there. And if you want to still put some famous people on there, put them on there. Get them to call, doesn't hurt. I just don't know if it helps like some people think maybe it used to, or some people think it does. So did your resume stand out? Did you have a good list of references? Did you apply online? This may sound dumb, but it is so irritating when we ask people to go, say the job posting said, for us, it's a site like Teach Georgia or the district website or whatever. We said, go to the district website and apply. And all you did was send a principal an email and didn't apply. You're either being lazy, arrogant, or dumb. I don't know which one, but you're being one of those things. And you don't want to be any of those things if you want the job. So leave no stone unturned. Remember, let's go back to where we started on this. What's the goal of step 2? Get an interview. If you want to get an interview, that's all you're worried about. To get that interview, then you can worry about the other steps. You do everything that you can to leave no stone unturned. Remember, 90 to 95% of the people get stalled out right here. Make sure you're doing everything right. If you didn't fill a form out online and that's what stalled you out, that's horrible. Don't complain anymore about not getting a job. So do everything you can do. Work your butt off on your resume. Make sure you got good references. Call them and ask them about you. Ask you, apply online. Do anything they ask. And send. I would totally apply online and send the principal an email. By the way, I hope that wasn't confusing. I just mean don't just send the principal an email and assume if he wants you, he'll just hire you and you don't have to apply. Don't go there. Don't leave any stone unturned if you want the job. So did you do all those things? Okay, you did all you could do. Now, this is kind of one of the few times where you don't get to pick. Is did they call you? Because if they call you for an interview, now you go to step 3. If they do not call you for an interview, you go to the next job and start back over at step 1. But let's just say, for purpose of this episode, you got called for an interview. Step 3, baby. You made it. What do you do from the time they called to the time you interview? You get to know the school. Step 3, prepare for the interview. Get to know the school. Get to know the community. Make a presentation. Go over the basic questions with yourself. These are simple things you can do. Again, are you leaving every stone unturned? Or are you turning them over? Are you doing everything you can do to get this job? You're now in the top 5 or 10% by getting this interview. Are you going to keep grinding and keep figuring out how you can get this job? Get to know the school, learn about it. If they had a past history of being really good, really bad, if they had a tragedy in their school's history, if they have had some issues academically, they had some issues in other sports, they've had some success academically, success in other sports, just get to know it. Because the more things you bring up personally in that interview, the better. So just kind of get to know the place. Get to know the place. What's it like? Now you can get a little closer to talking about what you're going to tell your team, your wife's looking at real estate, whatever. Not there yet, but you're getting closer. Let's for real learn this place. Let's make a presentation. This is probably the hardest question that I get on jobs, which is, what should I do? The answer is, I don't know. It really depends on what they're looking for. And every place is different. Some people may be enamored by your PowerPoint, and some people may be enamored by your manual, and some people may not be enamored by either. I don't know what you make, but I would make a presentation pitching myself. I would make a presentation on, we're going to be organized. This is what we're going to do. Give them some kind of plan of this is what we're going to do, is how we're going to do it. And but I think probably more important than anything is going over these basic questions so you can sound confident in the interview. And I put them on this next slide. These are the basic football interview questions. And if you change some of the football stuff, if you're a basketball coach or a baseball coach or softball or whatever, and you're listening to this, then you can tweak the question a little bit, but it's the same kind of stuff. They're going to start out asking about you and how you got here and why you want to be at our school and what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, tell us about blah, 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 all these different topics. You can read through that. And that stuff's on a lot of Parker resource stuff. But before the interview, get your wife or girlfriend or cousin or whatever to ask you these questions and answer them. Don't act like it's the first time you've ever heard this. It's irritating when we go into these job interviews and you got people that desperately want this job. It's a well-paying job. You ask them something like, well, tell us a little bit about your strengths and weaknesses. And they're like, they never thought that. I mean, they have no concept of what that might be. They just fumble through the answer. It gives off the wrong impression. Prepare for the interview. Go through these questions and ask yourself, what is my answer? There's no wrong answer for a lot of questions. Just, ask yourself, what is mine? Do you know as much about the community as you can, as much as the school? Do you know the answer to basic questions? Once you know those things, you're ready. You got from the day they call you to interview to the day you're interviewing to figure these things out. Now you go into step 4, which is actually interviewing. You get in that interview, you be yourself. Now you got to flip the switch a little bit. You kind of been in mode of, for lack of a better word, begging to get in there at this point. Now you're in there, and now it does turn a little bit on. I got to interview them. I got to make sure it's the right fit for me. So when you're being yourself in the interview, these are some things that stood out over the years. People subconsciously pick up on these 6 things: nervousness, timid, scared, confident, charismatic, engaging. People pick up on them. 3 are probably good and 3 are bad. But you don't even know you're picking up on them, but you pick up on them all day, every day. So when somebody comes in an interview and they're nervous or they're scared, they're kind of not, it comes off exactly how you would imagine. They may have been the best coach that possibly could have hired, but they just didn't come across as the coach that school wanted it that day. So you got to come across confident, charismatic, engaging. How do you come across those ways? You get your stuff together before the interview. You go in there feeling like, I got this. Do you ask yourself this question? Do you have any say over if you get this job or not? The answer is no. So why are you worried about it? Go do the best you can do. Jump in there and be you. Tell them what your plan is. Answer those basic questions ahead of time so you kind of know. They may not ask the exact same question, but they're going to ask some variation of that. And you just answer it confidently. Like, we're about to win some games. You guys hire me because we're about to go win some games. How do you always want to come across that way? You don't want to be arrogant or ugly or anything like that, but you want to come across like, look, I've got a plan. I'm organized. I'm disciplined. I'm hardworking. You want to always come across those 3 ways. Sell your vision, but don't say anything you can't do. I think this is a real trait, because remember, now you desperately want this job, but your ultimate goal is to be successful at the job. So if you talk them into something, we're going to do this with our booster club, we're going to do this fundraiser and this fundraiser, this fundraiser, you never do any of them. That's a great way to maybe you fool them into getting the job and get run off in 2 years. You got to tell them what you're really going to do. You got to find the right fit for you. And you got to try not to fool them, find the right fit, interview them. Try not to fool them, find the right fit, interview them. You got to, that's your ultimate goal, to do those things. You got to find a place that you fit in that wants to hire you, not some shell version of you that made a bunch of crap up in an interview. So go in there and tell them what we're going to do. Like, if you don't know much about strength and conditioning, don't act like you do. Just say, we're going to need to hire a strength coach, or maybe you guys have one on staff, but I guarantee I know it's important. I'm going to work with them. I'm not going to lie and say I'm going to tell them exactly what exercise to do, but I'm going to know it's important. I'm going to make a big deal about it. That's a fine answer. Nobody's expecting you to know everything about everything. Be honest. Be yourself. Don't trick them into hiring you. Find a fit. Make them want to hire you, because eventually the real you is going to come out, and we want to have that one. So be yourself. You want to be at a place that wants you, and your goal is not to get a job necessarily. That is the goal, the short-term goal, but the long-term goal, the ultimate goal, is to be successful at the school, to win at the school, to make a difference in kids' lives. And you're not going to do that if you trick them in the interview. So when you get to the end, they usually ask some question like, do you have any questions for us? These are the things I would ask. People ask me sometimes too, but what should I ask? I asked them, who you could bring as assistant coaches and what the process was for hiring assistant coaches. I always asked about the weight training program. Like, tell me how you guys do it now. And then if I wanted to do it differently, I'd ask, like, can we get these kids in this period or whatever it was. Your schedule, I always thought whatever schedule I had as a head coach mattered. I mean, are you teaching science all day? Are you in PE? Are you in a lunchroom? Or what is your schedule? And then I always asked about the financial situation. I don't mean I don't mean how much would I make. You feel free to ask that if you're interested. But what I meant was, how do they do money here? Like, who pays for the helmets and who pay, tell me about the money situation. Are they way in debt? Do they have a surplus with the booster club, with the athletic department, whatever? I thought if I could get a gauge on those 4 things, I could kind of put all that together on, is this a job for me or not? And then of course I've been selling them for an hour on if I was the right fit for them. Now I needed these 4 questions answered to see if they were the right fit for me. So that was just me, but I think those are probably standard answers that most coaches need to know to figure out what the land layout is. The stuff you couldn't count, those are questions you can't really always find the answer to in that stage before the interview where you're just trying to figure out the school and all that. So those are the questions I like to answer. And now you're in step 4 and you're like, look, did I do the best I could do? I mean, did I do the best I could do when I applied, when I got my resume together, when I prepared for the interview? Did I do the best I could in the interview? It doesn't mean you were perfect, by the way. Nobody expects you to be perfect. But did you do the best you could do? And if you did the best you could do, then you're on to step 5, which is you got the job or you didn't. And our step 5 is always prove them right or prove them wrong. And I want to talk for a minute about both pieces of this, because I think when I say this, it really sounds real cute to the guys proving them wrong. You're like, you don't get that job, you interviewed, they give you that sad call that you didn't get it. It sucks, man. You can be pissed for a few days. It's okay. You can be mad about that. You should be mad. You wanted the job, you poured into it. But then you make that a mission to prove that school wrong. And that sounds really cute when I say that. I think people get that. I don't even know if I have to dwell on that, but you just make it your goal to prove them wrong. But I also want to talk about the people getting hired. Let's say they call you in that good call. You get that call saying you're coming back for another interview, or you get that call saying we're going to offer you the job. What are you going to do to prove these people right? Because they picked you out of 100 people. They picked you out of 100 people. What are you doing to prove them right? What are you doing to say from now on, this is where the work starts? I'm about to bust my butt to make myself the best coach I can be to prove that principal right for giving me a chance. I'd like to see a little more of that too. Don't just try to get a job. Let's get the job as the beginning of the journey, and now the hard work starts. And then if you don't get the job, obviously go prove them wrong. But if you get the job, prove those guys right. Horrible to see people not proving folks right that hired them. I hope somebody got something out of that. If you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, here on YouTube, comment, email me. I don't know. You can get a hold of me. I'm not that hard to get a hold of. So ask me a question. I try to answer everybody's questions. I try to get back with you as quick as I can. If there's a way I can help you, please let me know. We got the Parker Resource Podcast, new episodes on Fridays, most every Friday. We got these Parker Points, new episodes on Sundays. And we got our app at app.parkerresources.org. You can download the free app there. We got a free and a premium edition, but both have a lot of access to resources that'll be able to help you. And then got 2 books out there. Hopefully have a 3rd book out soon. So if there's anything we can do to help you, let us know. Just trying to stay involved and help coaches grow. Looking forward to seeing you next week on our Parker Point series. Hope everybody has a great week.